Hi, I'm Jane Hilsden, marketing consultant and founder of Dragonfly Marketing. Welcome to this episode of the How to Do Marketing Show, a no-nonsense podcast about marketing for small business. It's our mission at Dragonfly Marketing to put marketing on the agenda for every regionally based small business in Australia. Why? Because we know that when marketing is done properly, it can help your business grow. We believe small businesses are the backbone of our nation. When your business grows, it benefits not only you and your family, it benefits your whole community. Small businesses create a vibrant and connected economy. We employ local people, we donate to local charities, and we work together to build resilient and thriving regional communities. The How to Do Marketing Show is a podcast just for you and your small business. Bursting with marketing insight and information, this show will be a fabulous resource to help you know all there is to know about the topic of marketing for your small business. The world has just opened up. One of the consequences of the imposed social isolation due to COVID-19 is that geographic boundaries are no longer a barrier for customers to be exposed to our brand and to access our businesses. This literally presents a world of opportunity. On the flip side, it increases your customers' options and your competition. So how do you ensure that your brand stands out from the crowd? Is what you are currently promoting enough to differentiate yourself from businesses just like you? Nimarta Verma joins us to burst some bubbles around brand positioning. Too often, small businesses think that they are promoting themselves as a unique solution when in fact they are not at all. Never fear though, she has some really practical and simple suggestions that you can follow to help you come up with a point of difference for your business. Nimarta is a marketer who has worked across 50 different industries. She's helped some of our nation's biggest brands, such as Woolworths, solve some of their trickiest brand positioning challenges. She now runs her own marketing and strategy agency where she helps businesses figure out who they are and who they serve. Let's meet with Nimarta. Can you start off by explaining what brand positioning is? What does this term even mean?
Yeah, sure. So there's a common myth that brand positioning is where your brand sits in the market. And the reality is that your customers just don't see it that way. Only marketers see it that way. Only marketers can go, okay, with all the brands and all the things in the universe, here's where we stand. Your customers don't look at it like that. So the most useful way, in my view, to define brand positioning is what your brand stands for in the minds of your target customers. That is the only position a brand can own in someone's mind, and anything else is just marketing fluff. So with brand positioning, perception is reality. You know, if you own a brand and you say my brand stands for sophistication, but if your customers look at that brand and go, oh, this is something that's cheap but good quality, then that's what it is, right? So that's kind of the thing about brand positioning. And one of the best books that I've read on brand positioning is a book called Old School, but it's a book called Positioning by Al Ries and Jack Trout.
Okay.
And what they say about brand positioning is they said, for any brand to gain a place in your target customers' minds, that brand must connect the existing dots in their brain.
Right. Okay.
That's the way the brain works, apparently, that it can only accept anything that matches with what's already there. It can only build connections from what's already there. It can't just create some new thing and pop it in a new compartment. You see what I mean?
Right. Okay. So that, I guess, so if I'm correct, what you're saying is it's not necessarily where your brand sits in the marketplace, and in the marketplace that could be described as say if you're a real estate agent and there's 100 other real estate in your area, it's not necessarily where your brand, your real estate agent sits in comparison to them. It's more about how your customer actually thinks about your business. And then in terms of the dot connections, is that referring to every single person has experience and context of their own based on their belief system, their value system, what they know, you know, where their worldview, how they've been brought up, where they live, etc., etc. So when your brand shows up in front of that person, their brain then connects the dots of, this is where I am in the world and this is how I'm perceiving that brand to fit into my worldview. Is that right?
Yeah, so there's that aspect which you accurately described, but there's also the aspect of your relative positioning versus another brand. You see, we can still determine where we stand or where we sit comparison to other brands, but not as an objective, okay, let's do a chart. No, as something that exists in your customer's mind.
Yes.
If they've already got a cheap brand in their mind and you're trying to come in and you go, I'm the cheap one, in their brain, it may not build that connection naturally, because they'll go, hang on, that brand's trying to steal this position. I already got something here. You can only ladder it up. You can only build from it. You can only say something like, you know, we may be cheap, but our quality is can be matched by none. That's different. Then they start to go, oh, this is my cheap brand in my brain that's already existing. But that one is saying it's cheap, but really good quality. Okay, I can fit it together.
Yes. Interesting. Oh, I really love that description and those analogies. So like, I guess it does then, you know, go back to the real estate environment. It will actually matter where you're positioning yourself within that marketplace. However, it's how that customer positions you as opposed to the more general market positions.
That's right. That's right. So for brands and businesses, the question becomes, what's already in the minds of our target customer? Like, we've got to be obsessive about what is already on their minds and what connections do we need to bridge so that our brand can cement a place in their mind.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And that kind of, it really brings home the importance that small businesses really do differentiate their brands or their products and their services that they sell. How important, and, you know, why should businesses really be focusing on that differentiation, you know, expanding on your point of, well, you can't have too many cheap brands listed in the brain, because the brain needs to kind of segment and order the information. So how important is that differentiation piece for businesses?
It's extremely important. I speak to a lot of business owners, and they started their business, of course, as we all do, because they're great at what they do.
Yeah.
And it does well for a time that it does well. And then all of a sudden they're finding their sales drop. They're starting to wonder what's going wrong. And they start to then implement strategies that they're told to do. So they throw money on ads and they're still struggling to get customers, and they're wondering what's going on. Yeah. And I speak to them and I ask them, okay, tell me, what makes you different from others out there?
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many times I hear these same answers, Jane. You know, they say something like, we're passionate. We really care about our customers. We've been around since 1982. We have integrity. We have a unique process. And I go, great, what is it? And they start to tell me about it. I'm like, but your competitors tell me they do the same. Or I've read it on their website. They say the same. And they're like, we really are the best. But beyond that, they got nothing else to say. And then I burst a bubble and I say, look, all of your competitors are saying all of these things. And sometimes I even do a fun exercise where I put all the competitors, and including them, on one page with the messaging, and I hide all the logos. And I go, can you pick out your brand out of this? Oh. And some of them struggle. Some of them go, is that what my competitors saying? And there's just simply no differentiation. So many business owners don't realize that that's the root cause of the problem, is lack of clear brand differentiation. And they try to address it another way. You know, just do Facebook ads then, or it doesn't work, we'll do Instagram ads, and they offer a discount, and they dilute the value of their brand. Putting more time, putting more money, and it doesn't solve the issue in the long run at all.
Yes, it's like the kind of treating the symptoms and not the cause. So until you've actually kind of gone back to the fundamentals and ascertained, well, what is it? Why aren't we getting customers in the first place? Don't just throw more money at it, because then you're just amplifying the problem. And I completely hear you. I have the same experience when I speak with clients as well and say, well, what's different about you? And one common answer that I get a lot is, you know, our customer service is, you know, fantastic, or, you know, we really listen to our clients, or our communication skills are fantastic. And it's like, that's expected of you.
That's right.
As a business, like your clients and your customers actually expect you to communicate with them. They expect you to be good at customer service because, you know, you're in the service industry. So the fact that you're good at it is fantastic. At least that's, you know, one tick. However, you know, you're merely meeting people's expectation. You're not going above and beyond. And it's exactly, I love your exercise where you do, you know, kind of list all the different organizations and what they stand for, and take the branding away to show up exactly that the messaging is still the same. And I think for a lot of small business owners and big business owners, like anyone in business, it's really easy to live within your own bubble. And especially when you do, you know, really pride yourselves on customer service, or really do pride yourselves on, you know, being innovative or passionate. And that could be exactly true. But until you step outside of your own bubble and start to kind of look at your business in the eyes of a customer, you're not actually going to see that, oh, actually, you know, every real estate agent or every lawyer or every clothing shop is also passionate, you know, about their brand. So I think that's an excellent exercise to
that's right.
Okay, so during your career, let's talk a little bit more about yourself and what you've learned. So you've actually worked with some of Australia's as well as the world's biggest brands. And when it comes to brand building and differentiation, what have been some of your biggest learnings that you've taken from your time working with these brands?
Yeah, so I think I can share a couple. The first one is, it's never too late to build a brand that's differentiated. Like, I've worked with brands that have been long established, they've been around for over 20 years, and they don't stand for anything in the customer's minds. And within less than 2 years of consistently building it and building a point of difference, we started to see that it's shifted. And when we researched or interviewed customers, we started to see that for them, it shifted. So there's some business owners I meet who can be resigned about, you know, I've been around for so long, I've never done anything with this brand, I'm in too deep, it's too late. It's not, it's never too late.
Yeah, great.
And
good.
Yeah, and the next thing is, and I think this is really more so in small to medium businesses that I've come across. I think the bigger brands have cracked this, but speaking to people like they're human beings, I think it's really important. There's this whole notion that as a business, we must sound professional, and it could just sound really robotic. And that's the whole thing about, we talked about everything sounds the same, because the tone is all the same, the kind of language is all the same, and you wouldn't speak to someone that way. So people don't connect with those kind of brands. I think it's really important to be real and authentic to your own voice.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you say that some of the bigger businesses have cracked that. I think some of them have. However, I think that's where small businesses stand to have a real advantage over a lot of businesses, a lot of bigger businesses, because you can actually bring quite easily the key players in your small business to the forefront of your marketing.
That's right.
You know, particularly, and I think this is really, really important, particularly on your social channels, because, you know, it's very easy to forget that social media is exactly what the name suggests. It's social. So people turn up in this space to have conversations with friends and family, and, you know, authentic conversations with real people, and we know that people connect with people. So the corporate speak, particularly in these channels, just doesn't fly. And I think because people see these social media channels as a marketing tool,
and if they've been trained, if they're referring to perhaps lessons they've learned 15 years ago, well, we must write, corporate sales copy, or, everything must look very professional and corporate in the copywriting and the photography and that sort of stuff. That doesn't resonate in a lot of digital channels, not even on websites anymore.
Yeah,
would you agree?
that's right. Yeah, email as well. You just tune out. You just don't connect with that kind of language.
Yeah, I know there's some particular brands that I follow, and they allow, particularly in their email and their website, like it's kind of across all their touch points. When you're talking about brand, that is one of the important things to understand, is that touch point has to be consistent. But you can tell it's 100% their personality when they're writing an email, when they're writing the copy for their website, and you could tell that you would love that person. Do you know what I mean? Like, you just think,
like, you want to meet them.
Yeah. Like, I just think, I just want to have a wine with this person on a Friday afternoon. I think it would be hilarious. Or a Monday morning coffee. This person would really lift my mood. So I agree. I think that bringing the people and the relaxed kind of format to the conversation is great. So, and you mentioned that you think some big businesses have done that, and I agree with you. Can you think of any examples as to some larger brands that do that particularly well?
Yeah, I think that the example that's always best practice in the marketing world is the fruit juice brand Innocent.
Okay.
I think it's based out of the UK. They've got this really humorous tone, this way of just being able to take a joke and make a joke about themselves.
Yes.
That's one I can think of off the top of my mind.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and I think I've seen a little bit of stuff around theirs as well on their social media channels. Cool. I'll put them in the show notes so that our listeners can see an example of that kind of brand tone. Awesome.
Yeah,
So for those out there who want to start the process, and I'm so thrilled that you said one of your biggest learnings has been that you can teach an old dog new tricks. Like, it's not all over. If you have been operating for 20 years and you feel like your brand's not differentiated and you want to start the process of differentiating, or if you're new and you want to differentiate your brand and your business, where do they start? Where does someone actually start the task of differentiating their brand?
Yeah, so I think it comes down to what you said before, Jane, about brands and businesses being in our own bubble. And I think it starts with forcing yourself to think like an outsider to your own brand and industry. And it's really difficult because it's just the water we swim in. But recently I was practicing my pitch with my husband, and he's like, we've been married, we've been together, he knows what I do. And midway through my pitch, he stopped me and he said, "Stop, I've tuned out, I don't know what you're saying." And I'm like, "What do you mean?"
Wow.
"It's the simplest thing in the world." He goes, "No, it's not, I don't understand it." I'm like, "What?" And I started to test it out. I went, "Really? People don't understand what I do? Isn't branding obvious? What?" And I realized that I've been brought up and I've been like working in the marketing world for so long that everyone I speak to is from that world. We understand each other. But when I step out of it and speak to people who are potentially my clients and potentially will refer me, they got no idea what I do.
Yes.
And so I started to go, wow, like, what words am I using that people don't get? And how do I distill what I do to the simplest form? So I created a story about an ice cream shop and Mr. Jim who wants to sell ice cream to Timmy. And I tried to tell my story through that. So it's really difficult, but I think you've got to force yourself to go, if I didn't know anything about my business and my industry, what questions would I have? What are the words I'm using that's not clear? And start to ask, am I being clear about what problems I solve to someone who knows nothing about what I do?
Yeah.
Especially if you're in an industry where people aren't frequenting you. Not everyone will use a law firm. Not everyone will consult someone about their will. Not all the time. Not frequent. So especially that, do customers really understand the terminology? Even real estate, we don't buy 10 properties in our lifetime. Some of us do, but not majority. So are we being clear what we're saying about the problem we solve? And then are we clear about why us? Why choose us in comparison to someone else. So the best way for me that I found is just test it out, keep testing, and ask people for honest feedback, and ask them, are you really understanding what I'm saying? Or are you just nodding along?
Yes, yeah. What a fantastic exercise to do. And I guess that, as you said, that's actually taking it to people who will be, courageous enough to give you that feedback.
That's right.
And stop you along the way and say, I don't understand what that means. What a great exercise. I think I might do something like that as well, because you're right. Particularly when you've, for me, I've been doing marketing for 20 years now. So language that is natural and comes natural to me, and that I just assume, most people will understand, and that it's common sense, may or may not be. So I think that's a really, really good thing to do. And that's right. You don't have to make it complicated. You don't need to go and do fancy market research around this. It could just be getting your best girlfriend or your husband, or, maybe a potential customer or client that you've got a good relationship with, and running it past them. Great idea. Okay, so you've actually developed a framework for the process of differentiating your brand and building brand positioning. Can you please run us through this?
Yeah, sure. So I think a couple of things to mention is that as brand positioning is about sacrifice, so you must be willing to give up something. And I'm sure you're well aware of this, and I'm sure you're well aware how difficult it is to get business owners to no, you cannot go after that. No, you cannot do everything. So it's really important that that's there in the background at all times. And the process that I go through builds on each other. And it may seem obvious from the surface, of course, you look at your customers, you look at competitors, you look at your market, what's new. But I think it's the rigor that I bring to each step, and the different lens that I put into it. So I'll start to talk through the steps, and they build on each other. So I recommend doing it as per these steps.
Yeah.
So
okay.
The first step is to be really clear about who you're targeting and who you're not targeting. And, this is extremely difficult. I say to my clients, okay, maximum choose 2 different types of target customers. And they're like, but. Okay, maximum 3. I'll give you 3, and that's it. And this is one of the most critical aspects. Because as you know, when you try to be something for everyone, you stand for nothing and you stand for no one. And there's a saying that goes, the specialist wins over the generalist every time. People can remember when you're specific and when you're specialized in something.
Yes. I love that. I haven't heard that saying, but I love it. Yes, perfect.
Yeah. And then we come to profiling them. Now there's different formats, different templates of customer avatars. I don't really mind which one someone can use. It's really a template that anyone can download from the internet. But I think what's important is to look at your customers as a whole human being, not just in relation to your industry. A lot of businesses will try and understand a customer's mindset and be so specific to, but what do they think about my product, and what do they think about I don't think your customers spend that much time thinking about your product.
You're right. Yeah.
They have a life, let's talk about their life. Let's talk about what else is going on in their life. And so let's look into what are their desires, their fears, their passion, all of that. And the process that I go through is part intuition and part science. A lot of it, when you really put your minds into someone else's shoes, you can go, wow, it's their mom and they've got a newborn and they're working. What is that? What's life like for them?
Yeah.
And there's part of it that can be science as well. Like most businesses, small to medium, don't have the budget to do customer research. And I don't think they need to. I think that they can always find a couple of people who fit their profile, and they can just go and ask them some questions.
Yeah, 100%. Yep.
So, yeah.
No. So I was going to say, so step 1 was define the 2 or 3 segments, maximum 3.
Yeah.
Step 2 was deep dive into the persona that kind of represents each of those segments and get to know them really, really well, so that you do have the ability to put yourself in their shoes and work out what their worldview is compared to what yours is as the business owner. What's the next step?
So the next step, we study the competitors. Now, I say the word competitors, but I'm well aware that if you're a law firm and you're based in a certain part of Australia, probably not every law firm is going to be your competitor because of the location.
Yeah.
But I still think it's worthwhile studying them and looking at what they're saying.
Yeah.
And looking at how do they talk about themselves? What do they say about their process? How do they say that they add value? It's the way that I do it. I just look at their website. I look at the different parts of their website. I take lots of screenshots. I pull it all together and I study it. And in doing that, there'll be some trends or there'll be some patterns that emerge. Make notes, put down questions, start to kind of question the way that the industry or your competitors do things. And there'll be common themes that start to emerge. Now you might find, if you're a law firm and you're studying your competitors, are all the law firms saying you can trust us? And if you think from your customer that you've just spoken about, they've got this busy life and they're so overwhelmed and they're trying to find something and everyone's saying you can trust me. Like, what's that like for them? What would be going through their mind? Because remember, we're always looking for, how do we build that connection to their mind? That's always what we're trying to do. So you start to see, oh God, if everyone's saying this, then what would they be thinking?
And I think too, around that, like, even if you kind of analyze the very notion of someone saying, don't worry, you can trust us, we're a law firm, you can trust us. So like, all the law firms are going to say that first and foremost, but also, of course you're going to say that. Do you know what I mean? Like,
that's right.
Regardless of whether they can trust you or not, you're going to say that. So there's got to be, those words need to be backed up. If you're going to base it on trust, you really need to back that up. And
that's right.
The obvious one is with testimonials to do that, but it's it means nothing. It means absolutely nothing when you say, trust me, you've never met me. You've never met any of the people that work for the business. You've never heard of my brand, but trust me. Trust isn't, you don't gain trust simply by saying, hey, guess what, guys, we're trustworthy. Now, with this research, and so say, for example, if you're a small business sitting in a regional area, and so the likelihood is that you've got potentially 10, 20 local law firms. So you might start at looking to see, okay, locally, what are other people's choice, what are our clients' choices? When you're looking more broadly, how would you suggest people do that? Is it simply just kind of chucking your keywords into Google, or how would you suggest doing that?
So I would do it the way that their customer would do it, which is, as you said, chucking a few keywords. It doesn't need to be sophisticated. You don't need to go to the page 20 of Google because your customers likely won't. So you're probably better off just looking at first 2 pages. That's where your customers will get overwhelmed and be like, everything sounds the same. I don't know. I just got to pick one.
Yeah, that's right. Like, no one's got the patience. In fact, it would surprise me if anyone, except for people doing market research, would go beyond page 1 of Google.
I know. Right.
So step 3 is check out the competitors. What's the next step?
So this is a bit that a lot of marketers that I speak to don't do, and I call it cross-pollination. So I study, because now we understand our target customer so well, I study the other brands or industries, rather, that are targeting those same customers. So let's say if I was working for a client who is a law firm, as I said before, and they're targeting parents of newborn babies, I would study someone like Baby Bunting. I would study nappy companies. And why that is because I then get a sense of what else is being communicated to my customers.
Yes.
What are those brands saying? Because there must be some common theme as well, or there must be another thing that I can ladder it up in my customer's mind that they're getting bombarded with. So I look at it from that lens as well. And it really does make a difference when you're creating a brand positioning to know, wow, as a whole customer, what else are they hearing? An average person is exposed to about 3,000 brand messages per day. That's it's not, your competitors aren't just the people in your industry. They're everyone who's talking to your customers. Because you're competing for that space in their mind.
That is so smart, Nimarta. I love that. So the cross-pollination, and with that step, I mean, I guess you could get some cues from your target persona when you're asking some questions of your target persona to get to know them, as to other brands that they might be interacting with.
That's right. Exactly.
Can check them out.
You can work it down to the detail, like what kind of car would they be driving? Do they shop at Aldi or Woolies?
Yes. I love it. Fantastic. What next?
Okay, so remember, each step builds on each other, right? So now we know exactly who our customers are. We know what's important to them. We know what the competitors are saying. We know what the other industries are saying to them. And with all of that in the background, the final part is what I call the Zach factor. It's my favorite part. So if everyone else is zigging, how do we Zach?
Love it.
If everyone is saying, you can trust us, what can we say?
Yeah.
And keeping in mind that it's not a random, like, oh, okay, we'll just be different because we're different. No, it has to matter to the customer.
Yes.
We now know what matters to them. It has to connect the existing dots in their brain. It has to give them like an aha moment.
Yeah.
So, now that we've kind of looked at all the competitors and we go, oh, surely our customers are being, surely our customers are sick of being told, trust me.
Yes.
What else can we say? We shouldn't say that, right? It's pretty obvious. But what can we say? Maybe we can say, hey, we know that trust is earned. So unlike other law firms that you might have come across, we won't tell you to trust us. But let us show you, here's how we'll earn your trust. 1, 2, 3, 4. Like already that's different.
Yeah. And do your clients that you work with on this framework, I guess because they've been through that, 5-step process with you, and they've gone on the journey of kind of understanding the worldview from their customer's point of view. So when you get to that point of saying, okay, guys, now we're actually going to say something different to the competitors, that they would be a bit more confident in that, because they've seen that the target persona, they've seen what else they're exposed to, they've seen what else the competition are doing. So it's a lot easier to be more confident with, we need to be different in this space.
Yeah, that's right. Because I take them through the journey, and by this point now they get it, and they go, "Oh yeah, you're right." If I was the customer, I'd be really confused. And I go, "Great. So here's how we're gonna do that." And I'm not a big fan of competitor bashing, but I will ask my client, "Look, I know a lot of industries have good relationships with their own competitors.
Yeah.
How much are you willing for me to stretch? Because I can say things like, unlike our competitors, or I can say, we're the only one who does that." There's different ways you can tone up and down depending on how aggressive they want to be. So I leave that up to them.
Yeah. I love it. Fantastic. Now, in our pre-conversations, you had a great study, and I loved this case study that you shared. And it's about a community-focused cricket academy that you helped to grow by developing a strong brand positioning. Can you share the challenge that you were looking to provide a solution for here, the methodology, which I imagine is very similar to what you've just described, and the results that you achieved using that Cricket Academy case study?
Yeah, sure. So the challenge is that my husband, when he said he wanted to start a cricket academy in a part of Sydney that we're in, where there's like over 30 established academies,
wow.
I just knew that was my test as a marketer. I'm like, this is my time, isn't it? This is everything I've learned. And the thing about it is that when I looked into our competitors, all of them had some kind of reputation they could build on from their founder, where that founder has played a high level of cricket either in Australia or internationally. So it's very much reputation. The game was reputation. We didn't have that. My husband played cricket, but not at the same level that we could brag about. So,
right.
How do you win when the odds are against you? If reputation was the game, we didn't even have an entry ticket. So it makes me think of us, whether or not you're a football fanatic, I think you would know Lionel Messi.
Yes.
And he is someone who was born with a growth defect, but he's today one of the world's best soccer players and most adored and highest paid. And what he did when the game wasn't in favor of him and his physical limitations, he couldn't muscle his way through a team's defense. So he learned to be quick. He learned to glide through it. He learned to be one of the fastest football dribblers, right? So what he did was he redefined the game to his advantage. And that's what we did. So my husband didn't have the reputation to build on, but our advantage was his career as a teacher. He's been a teacher all his life. And so we redefined the game. And like I said, when you start to look through all of this, go through all the steps that I mentioned, some things will emerge, patterns will emerge, questions will emerge. And one of the simple but not so obvious insights that we tapped on, and we educated parents on this, but we said, did you know that the best cricketers don't necessarily make the best coaches?
Yes, I love it.
It's so obvious, isn't it, now that you think about it?
Yes.
And we
Yeah.
say, coaching, just like teaching, it's a learned art. It's
Yeah.
not the same thing as playing. It's different.
Yes.
And it's an art that we've mastered. Why? Because our founder is a teacher and he's been doing that for a number of years. He's taught this many number of kids and no one could compete. No, still, no one can compete with us in that game. We completely shifted what it is to be a cricket academy.
Oh my goodness. As a parent of a 10-year-old boy, like I'm totally enrolling my child in your cricket academy. Should it be in Port Macquarie? But yes, I love that. I love how you've come up with your unique selling point there based on the skill set that you have. I love your analogy of the Messi example and redefining your description of redefining the game to work to your advantage. That is absolutely brilliant, and it's so doable.
It is.
Small business. Any business can do that.
That's right. It really is. So that's what really inspires me, and that's what has me really get excited about helping businesses, because I'm like, I know it can be done.
Yeah. And as a result, do you mind sharing the results with it? Because, it's all well and good to have these plans and the methodology, but did it work?
Yeah. So we've doubled in size every year for the past 4 years. And we look at the numbers every time and we're like, really? Did we just double again? Has this happened again? And our accountant, year one, I remember she sat with us and she goes, what? I've never seen a business make profit in year one. What are you guys doing?
Wow.
And my husband wasn't even running it full time. He was still working part time. So it was really incredible what we were able to accomplish. And we became, out of the 30 established cricket academies that were in the area, we became the trusted one that local cricket clubs use to run their training programs. And the coolest part, we were able to demand a premium price.
Excellent. Fantastic. Because you'd created that demand.
That's
but
right.
Also created something that was of value to parents, because, all parents, well, I'm yet to meet a parent that doesn't want their child to succeed. And I think by you pointing out a fact that perhaps they didn't think of, or that they didn't actually know at the time, but by you pointing out a difference of, well, you can get, the magical cricket player and the well-reputed cricket player of the moment, but does that cricket player actually have the ability to teach and inspire your child, or is that cricket player just going to turn up and be a front-facing, glory holder, but not actually impart any of their knowledge onto your kids? I think that's absolutely brilliant. Okay. So what are some of the challenges that small business owners might face when they start working on positioning their brand? What are some of the things they might need to overcome?
Yeah, I don't know if you would agree with me on this, Jane, but I think the number one challenge is their own resistance from my experience.
Yeah.
They may not see why it's necessary. They it's like, what is that? Is fluff, or is it going to make me a sale? And they'd rather just spend money to make a quick sale. Oh, let me just do a discount. Let me just put an ad on. I just want to make a quick buck.
Yes.
That's probably the number one challenge, I would say.
Yeah. And that's why I asked you or made the point about businesses would probably be more confident about kind of changing their business positioning, or even zagging while others are zigging. Because I think, to your point, what I do see in a lot of small businesses is that fear of stepping outside what is true and tested. So there's and I don't know whether it's a subconscious thing or not, but when we see all the competitors positioning themselves on trust, we feel like we should position, or they feel like they should position themselves on trust because that's safe. And it's obviously working for all of these other businesses. So if we do something differently, what will that mean? Do you know what I mean? Will people think, will it be the wrong decision? Will that fail? Will it be, too outside of the square for people to get their heads around? So I think you're absolutely right, and I would agree with you where businesses can get in their own way. Also, I think two, it's a bit of education that's required, and certainly you talking through some of these principles and some of the important reasons as to why we, before we start just shelling out more money on Facebook or on radio ads, actually peel it right back and have a few hard conversations and go through and make a few big decisions around what our brand is going to mean. That's not as easy as just throwing the money at radio stations. So I would absolutely agree with you there. I think that's a really good point. Who are the most important stakeholders to take on the branding journey with you, and why? So when a business is going to undergo this brand positioning exercise, who do they need to take on the journey?
Yeah, so I think the most important one, and especially if you're a business that has employees, it will be your employees, bringing them along the journey, having them understand here's why we're making this change or why we're evolving our brand, and actually having them be able to tell your brand story. Because my husband, for example, he's got maybe 10, maybe 20 coaches. Everything falls flat if they can't explain what we do differently, because they're the ones meeting the parents and the kids.
Yes.
And we can turn it into a game. We can go, okay, who can say what we do in 30 seconds, you get a prize, whatever. But I think it's important that your employees are your walking, talking spokesperson for the brand.
Yeah. And particularly when you're undergoing that transformation, to bring them through a rebrand process where, once that rebranding is all in place and it is time to actually go out and spend some more money on Facebook and all the rest, that they're so proud of that because they've been on the journey and they've been part of that retransformation and that repositioning, that they're almost compelled to share that out via their own channels and share that out to the people, their friends and family, because they're like, look what we did, this is amazing, we're so proud of this. I completely agree.
Yeah, and I think it's really important as well to take your customers along the journey. Most brands are so nervous and cautious about, if I make a change, they won't recognize us, blah, blah, blah. They actually can be really proud, just like your employees are. So my husband and I, our cricket academy, we've evolved our brand twice now in the 4 years that we've been operating. And each time we do it, we make a show and tell out of it on Facebook. We take the customers through a journey. We go, we've seen your child's evolution, and we wanted to evolve so that we could be a match for them. And the customer, they love it. They go, wow, these guys are keeping up with us. They're not just complacent. It almost reflects on how you do business overall. You're someone who's keeping up with what's happening.
Yeah. And I guess it's inclusive. So it's almost inclusive, including them on as part of the tribe, in terms of you guys get to help us make decisions because you guys are so important, to the academy or to the business, and we value your opinion. So it's kind of instilling a bit of pride that when that has changed and the transformation is complete, that they've actually had a little bit of a stake in that. Yeah. I love it. Perfect. Okay, so if you had to narrow it down, what would be your top 3 tips to share with small business owners looking to create a unique and a sustainable brand?
Yeah, so I think that I've really tried to think about something that they can, as someone who's listening to this podcast, they can go back and take it on right away, right? Yeah. So the first tip is ask yourself, what's the zig in your industry and where can you zag?
Great.
And a good zag is something that A, matters to the customer, B, it's a strength that you have, or it can become your strength. It's something that the thing I love about small to medium businesses is that they can be highly adaptable.
Yeah.
They can go, everyone's doing that, we could do this. And that process can change in a matter of days.
Yeah.
Rather than a big corporation where you can't just go snap your fingers and change a whole process. So I think it's really something they can play to their advantage.
Yeah.
And then the next part of a good zag is it should address a pain point or a gap in your industry. There's an example that I like to refer to. They're called the clean plumber. And it's a really simple insight. Plumbers come into your house, they leave messes everywhere, and sometimes they're late. There's no reliability. So the clean plumber their concept's really simple. They say, we will leave your house cleaner than when we walked in. It's like, oh, that's
Love
cool.
it.
I want those plumbers. And they say, if we're running up until X minutes late, it's on us. We won't charge you.
Wow. So they're addressing two pain points. One, that you're always sitting around waiting for the tradie, and two, that you're worried about the mess that they might leave in the bathroom. I love it. And I love how they even say, we'll actually leave it cleaner than when
they
we
actually
got
wipe
there.
it down. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Yeah, great example.
Yeah, and the second piece of tip is features don't sell. And I'm sure, in your whole career, that's something that you deal with all the time. So instead of leading with features, lead with what's now possible in your customer's life now that they've used your product or service. So rather than say, oh, we've got this vacuum cleaner, it's got 500 watts of suction power. I'm like, I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
You can say things like, do your vacuuming in half the time with our vacuum cleaner that's got 500 watts. You can still say the feature. It makes sure that you're not just communicating fluff. Or you can say, spend more time with your children, spend more time with your partner. Like that's more compelling, and it's not a difficult change to make if you just apply that mindset.
Yes. Yeah.
But it does make a big impact.
Yeah. 100%.
And the third tip I would say is on your website and on your marketing material, try not, or actually don't use cliches and jargons like passionate, customer centric, and instead dig deeper and get specific. You said it before, like, okay, what do you mean you're great at customer service? Like, tell us how.
Yes.
Give us the specifics, because when you're specific, people can create a picture in their minds. Yeah. And, remember, it all still goes back to, we're trying to own that place in their mind. If they can picture it in their mind, therefore it becomes more memorable to them.
Yeah. Great. I love it. Fantastic tips. Now, brand positioning is a really tricky one to measure. And if you're a large business with a super large budget who can commission, large customer research firms to go out and do brand related research, then it's possible. How do you think small businesses are best to measure how well their positioning resonates with their audience?
Yeah, so I get asked this all the time, and I really stand by this, that you will notice that you get better return on your marketing spend, and you will notice that you can spend less and earn as much or more than you used to. And this is proven through not just the big budget that I've spent, but with my husband's cricket business, with everything that we were able to accomplish, doubling year on year for 4 years, we only spent 4% of our revenue on marketing. 4%, that's tiny.
Yeah,
I've seen brands who spend way more, 10, 20, 30.
Yeah.
4% is nothing.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah.
So when you hold that clear positioning, the message will land better with your audience. You don't need to spend as much. You don't need to, and because you're really clear now who your audience is, you're not trying to then broadcast your message to everyone.
That's exactly right. And to be honest, like when that measurement can be felt at the top line, but as you're saying, in the bottom line of your business, in terms of, you can be more profitable because you're spending less to actually get the customers to your business. That's a pretty significant reason in my books as to why you should really invest the time, and it might involve money depending on how you approach your brand positioning. I'm sure Nimarta and I are on the same page here, where we both recommend kind of, if you do have the ability to invest in working with a branding expert to do this, I would certainly recommend it. I'm sure Nimarta would as well, because there is some benefit, and it goes back to the ability to take yourself out of the bubble of your business. And all of the stuff that you can't undo that. You can't undo the years and years of knowledge and insight and jargon and, thinking around your business. So to get someone who can come in and kind of challenge you to think a bit differently and to challenge some of your beliefs around your business, I think is really worthwhile. And on that
Absolutely.
point, Nimarta, if people did want to get in touch with you to help them with a project like this, or even to find out more about you and about brand positioning, where's the best place that people can find you?
Yeah, so they can find me on LinkedIn and they can search my name, Nimarta Verma. I'm the only Nimarta Verma on LinkedIn, so that's me. And they can connect with me there, or they can feel free to send me an email directly. And the email address is nimarta@nimartaverma.com.
Perfect. That's brilliant. Nimarta, you have had so many fantastic tips to share with us today. I really, really appreciate your time and your generosity with everything that you've learned along the way. I loved your examples and your case studies. You've clearly had some great successes in the brand positioning space. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And then those questions were really pointy. They were great. They were so much fun to answer. So thank you.
Well, what a fountain of terrific advice Nimarta is. I tell you what I always really love to see, and that's a framework. I love Nimarta's 5 steps to help a business assess and define their brand positioning. And I also really loved her real life example of how she successfully differentiated her cricket academy by promoting a unique strength of theirs. So by pulling out the qualifications and the experience of a trained teacher, combined with the excellent cricket skills, it meant that the likelihood of the kids that joined their academy really learnt the skills that they needed to be a great cricketer, whereas perhaps some of the other big name cricket academies may not have had that advantage in terms of being able to teach the kids in an engaging way so that they actually learned. That's fantastic. I love it. So if you are enjoying all of the small business marketing insight that's being shared out on the How to Do Marketing show, please be sure to hit subscribe and leave a rating and review. And while you're at it, if you can think of another small business owner that might really enjoy this podcast, please share the link with them. Also, we'd love you to join in the discussions about small business marketing in the How to Do Marketing group on Facebook. This is an opportunity to tap into a community of other like-minded small business owners and ask questions, run ideas past people, and perhaps discuss topics that arise in the How to Do Marketing show. So until next time, happy marketing.
You've been listening